Hi everybody, welcome back to the garden. This week I found two really exciting garden surprises and I'm going to share them both with you today. The first one is a Colocasia, I think, elephant ears that I tried to overwinter. It was gorgeous last year. I overwintered it in the basement and spring came and I started to water it and nothing grew. I brought it outside and watered it a little bit more and still nothing grew. So I waited a couple weeks and then threw it in the compost. So I have my fork and I have some gloves and we're going to try to go and dig this thing out of the compost, which is where it's been sitting for the last, I don't know, 2 months, maybe more. Let's sit that there. Now I promise this is the ugliest area of my yard. This is our compost pile, but look at this thing. Now I think I first noticed this about 2 weeks ago. It's currently about 4 feet high. These leaves are gigantic. There are so many shoots. There, face for comparison. Clearly it likes it here, so I'm gonna see, first we need to get it out. Then I need to find a pot to fit it in, and then I think I'm gonna put it right back here because clearly it likes being right here. These leaves are a really good color, and there are a lot of new leaves coming too, so I can actually see. Yeah, it's not actually buried in the compost, it's sort of sitting right next to it, but the compost pile is clearly starting to take over. So let me get my fork. I'm just climbing around to my compost pile now. I think I need a new plan. Okay, there we go. Okay. That was not light, but we got it. Okay, this is the biggest pot I could find, and I'm not sure it's going to be big enough. I've got a few loose pieces on the side here. I might just sacrifice a couple of shoots. I may have to trim some roots. As I'm doing this, I'm just cutting off some of the older leaves. That one's not doing the plant any good. There, all right, it's in there. Okay, hopefully it won't sulk too much. But my thinking for putting it here is that when the leaves perk up, it will actually act as a bit of a better screen to hide all this mess behind it. And I really just want to keep it healthy until fall when I can separate it and then store the bulbs. And then now that I know it just takes a while to get going in the spring, I won't make the same mistake next year. There, so that was just the first thing. There is a second garden surprise that I found actually a couple of weeks ago, and now is a perfect time to go and deal with that one. So these are lily bulbils. They're essentially tiny little miniature bulbs that will eventually grow into a full-size plant and flower just like this one. It typically takes about 3 years to get to the point where it's big enough to flower. But you can just simply pop these things off. They come off really easily, and if they are ready, they'll even have a little bit of a root coming out the bottom already. So I got a good couple of dozen of these things, and now we have to pot them up. So I've managed to find a tiny little bit of shade to do this in. It is getting a little bit hot out, but it's been raining so much, so a little bit of sunshine is a really nice change. So I don't know exactly how many I have in here. This is, I think, a 40 cell tray, and you don't even need to use cells. If you just have a plain open tray, you can scatter them all in and cover them with soil. I'm going to, whoops, I lost one. Oh, I got it. I'm going to start by putting the bigger ones with the roots in individually, and if I have more left over at the end, I can double up the smaller ones. I'm just going to push these in, maybe ½ an inch or so. I'd rather them have a bit more root space than bury them too deep. It's always a good guide to think about what happens in nature. These things are pretty much just going to fall off the plant, root into the ground, and then go from there. And then through the action of rain and leaves falling down and all that, you're going to get them, buried a little bit. So they're going to be maybe a ½ inch below soil level. I'm pushing them down into the soil, root end first. I'm going to give them a good water and then just put a little bit of a soil covering over the top, just to make sure they stay put and keep them moist until that root starts to grow, which really shouldn't take long. So these aren't really seeds. Lilies will also produce seeds, most of them anyway. These are bulbils. They're essentially already a tiny little plant. I'm just doing this very, very carefully, just to settle the soil a little bit. So the next step is just to put these in the greenhouse and wait for signs of little green shoots popping up. Squeezing them behind the tomato plants, which works really well actually, because that gives them a little bit of dappled shade back there. It does not need bright blazing sunlight. There. So I'm going to go water both of those things actually. I'm going to water those lilies just a little bit, and I'm going to go water that Colocasia, and then I'll call it a day. It's always fun to find nice little garden surprises like that, which is why it's important to spend some time walking around your garden without actually having a mission to accomplish. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.